It started as a typical, quiet evening on Earth, or at least it was supposed to be. The sky was darkening with the last glimmer of sunset fading away, and across the globe, people were wrapping up their workdays, headed home, or enjoying their evening routines. No one had any idea that the world was about to be thrown into chaos, nor that humanity's greatest asset, their stubbornness, was about to be tested on an intergalactic scale. The invasion began in the most unexpected of places, a small, unassuming town in rural Ireland. The first signs came at precisely 7:35 p.m., when a massive, shimmering ship appeared above the hills of County Kerry, nearly the size of a small city, blocking out the stars. Within moments, the peaceful landscape was overshadowed by a strange, pulsing energy field, and then the world heard it, the announcement. "We are the Atari, Conquerors of the Stars. You will surrender your planet to us, or we will annihilate all resistance." The Atari weren't a typical alien race. They were a species that had swept across hundreds of systems, crushing planets and enslaving civilizations in their wake. With their hyper-advanced technology, impenetrable shields, and weapons capable of turning entire cities into dust, they were an empire of terrifying power. When they landed on Earth, they expected it to be no different. They had done their homework. They knew humanity was relatively primitive compared to the races they had conquered. The Atari had faced no true challenge in their long reign of terror, and they saw Earth's defenses as laughable at best. But there was one thing they hadn't counted on: human defiance. Or more specifically, the Irish. The leader of the Atari invasion, a towering alien with silver skin and eyes that glowed like the moon, watched as his command ship hovered over the town. His troops were already preparing to disembark, their weapons gleaming with deadly intent. This was going to be easy, he thought, just another quick strike, a brief conquest before moving on to their next target. Earth was ripe for the picking, and its people would bow before the might of the Atari. But then something happened that no one could have predicted. A single human, a middle-aged man named Sean O'Connor, standing on his porch in his worn flannel shirt, stared up at the Atari ship. He had no idea what he was seeing, just that it wasn't something that belonged in the sky above his farm. The ship was massive, almost too large to comprehend, and it filled the horizon like an ancient monster stirring from slumber. And yet, as the ship's lights flashed ominously, Sean stood there, hands on his hips, watching it with a sort of detached curiosity. Sean was no soldier, no military expert. He wasn't even a particularly patriotic man. He just liked his quiet life, his sheep, and his beer. But one thing Sean did know, perhaps better than anyone, was how to not take things lying down. After all, he had faced countless years of bad weather, unpredictable farming conditions, and the occasional argument with the neighbors. An alien invasion? That was just another inconvenience to deal with. The Atari had made their demands clear: surrender or face annihilation. They broadcasted their message across the world's communications channels, demanding that humanity kneel before them. The global leaders, in shock and fear, scrambled to respond, but it was clear that nothing they had would be enough to stand up to the Atari's overwhelming power. But as the world hesitated, Sean O'Connor made a decision that would change everything. A few minutes later, he marched into his barn, grabbed his old shotgun, and walked back outside. Standing on the porch once more, he gave the alien ship a firm, one-finger salute and shouted into the wind, "You did fecking what?" The aliens, in their infinite wisdom, had never considered the possibility that humanity might not just kneel in fear. They had no understanding of human pride or stubbornness. Sean's gesture, so simple and human, sparked something deep within his fellow humans. It wasn't about the shotgun or his individual action, it was the spirit behind it. Sean had made a stand, and in doing so, he unknowingly inspired a movement. Humanity responded. People across the globe, from every corner of Earth, saw the footage of Sean on the news, shaking his fist at the alien invaders. And they rallied. The news was soon flooded with reports of ordinary civilians grabbing whatever weapons they could find: old hunting rifles, handguns, even pitchforks and shovels. The Atari, so used to swiftly crushing civilizations, had underestimated humanity's resilience, and now they were facing a force they didn't understand: unity and defiance. The first real confrontation came the next day. The Atari landed their ground forces in a small city in England, expecting to mop up what remained of the human military. But what they found was something they had never encountered before: a disorganized but fierce and unrelenting human force. There were no advanced weapons, no military tactics that could match the Atari's, but there was a sheer will to fight that no amount of alien technology could overpower. As Atari soldiers disembarked from their ships, they were met with a barrage of homemade explosives, Molotov cocktails, and weapons fired by civilians who had no regard for their own safety. The aliens had thought themselves invincible, but they had never accounted for the sheer unpredictability of human resolve. The alien leader, who had watched the initial chaos from above, turned to his second-in-command in shock. "You did fecking what?" he muttered in disbelief. "Why are they fighting like this? They have nothing." His second-in-command looked equally stunned. "We were told they would surrender. What are they doing?" The answer was simple. Humans don't surrender, not without a fight. By the time the Atari realized what was happening, it was too late. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. They were fighting back with a ferocity and ingenuity that the Atari had never experienced before. They were using everything at their disposal, scrap metal, old cars, anything that could be turned into a weapon, and they were winning. The Atari's energy weapons and superior shields could not protect them from the onslaught of human creativity and sheer willpower. What followed was a series of victories for the human resistance. The Atari, baffled and increasingly overwhelmed, began to retreat. Their ships, once thought invincible, were now facing ambushes and surprise attacks from all corners of the globe. The alien forces found themselves outgunned and outsmarted at every turn. In the end, the Atari had no choice but to leave Earth, defeated not by technology, but by humanity's indefatigable spirit. Sean O'Connor, who had never intended to start a war, became a global hero. When asked how he felt about the entire situation, he simply shrugged and took another swig from his pint of Guinness. "Well, lads, they did fecking what?" And the world, for the first time in a long while, smiled.